All right, hey everyone, Jeff here at Stop the Pirates, stopblogspot.com, 7/14/2020. Did you guys see this? This company called Wayfair.com, it's an e-commerce company, is selling these cabinets for like $14,499, these cheap little storage cabinets. And some of you figured out on Reddit, I guess, that when you plug in the product number or something into a website called Yandex. All right, Yandex. What it is little kids that have recently been gone missing. So this little girl, 17-year-old Samaya Mumin, disappeared last year, I guess, and now she's up for sale on Wayfair.com as a cabinet for $12,899.99. A 5-shelf storage cabinet for that much money? I don't think so. And recently, the CEO of Wayfair just resigned. I don't know. So maybe there is something to all this stuff about. I mean, that's what they do. I mean, the biggest player in all of this, child kidnapping, the sex slavery, the white slavery, the organ harvesting, it's all run by the, from what I understand, the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force. I'll give you a good reason why they do it. If you look up in Corpus Juris Secundum, which is a complete restatement of the entire American law, and look up attorney and client, you'll read that attorney with an obligation to the courts and to the public, no less significant than his obligation to his clients. Thus, the attorney occupies a dual position, which imposes dual obligation. His first duty is to the courts and the public, not to the client. And wherever the duties to his client conflict with those he owes to as an officer of the court in an administration of justice, the former must yield to the latter. See, the attorneys all work for the court, so there's definitely a conflict of interest there. And if you look up attorney-client, the next one down, a client is one who applies to a lawyer or counselor for advice and direction in a question of law, or commits his cause to his management in prosecuting a claim or defending against a suit in a court of justice. Clients are also called wards of the court. And if you look up what a wards of the court is in a Black's Law Dictionary, it's infants and persons of unsound mind. So all U.S. citizens, all 14th Amendment U.S. citizens are considered to be wards of the court, infants and persons of unsound mind. That's why they can just come out and mandate that you do whatever they want. And I'll get into this right now. And this is why you should never hire an attorney. This is not legal or tax advice, but obviously sometimes you find yourself in a position where you have to hire one of these people. Because when you do, you're considered a ward of the state. And we're all considered wards of the state anyway. When you hire an attorney, you are considered a ward of the state, an imbecile and incompetent. The reason you are considered a ward of the state is because your mother signed a record of live birth as an informant, ultimately acting as the trustee of the executor's father estate. In doing so, she unwillingly signed away the property, which is the child of the executor, the father, to the state. If married, she's acting as the co-executor of the estate, or in the capacity of a trustee, one with authority to sign over property. Your mother abandoned you at birth. Have you noticed the mother's address is already pre-typed in one of the boxes on your birth certificate? Have you noticed that there's no address for the father on the certificate of live birth? Have you noticed it's the address of the mother's maiden name in that box? I mean, look at it. If your parents are married, why is she using her maiden name? And have you noticed that they had the mother sign as the informant and not the father? And the Department of Health gives instructions to the doctors or the nurses. And they tell them to have the parent review the certificate of live birth for accuracy, read the statement contained in the section, and sign the section to clarify the accuracy of the certificate. We suggest that you ask the mother to sign the birth certificate. Never have a parent sign a blank or incomplete certificate. These are the instructions that they give supposed to give the parent. Now, why would the Department of Health and Vital Statistics teach doctors, nurses, and hospital administrators to coerce the mother into signing the certificate of live birth instead of the father, who is the executor of the estate? Because the executor is the highest office of the estate, and the state does not care to deal with him. They would rather go after the informant or the trustee instead. Attempting to administrate an estate without written authorized consent of the executor is very costly. What the hell is this? People go to prison. But if they can coerce the mother informant trustee to sign over the property, then they have a legal leg to stand on. Note, an estate must come before a trust. The state issued the child a certificate of death, which created a new estate, the legal fiction, the corporate you, in which they were the creator of. It's your name in all capital letters. The womb man, the WOMB man, is her own estate in which she's the executrix if she has reached legal age. If not, her father is the executor of her estate until the time. The man in his own estate in which he's the executor once he comes of legal age or marries, until then he's father and executor of his own estate. So when they get married, it forms a trust. The womb man's estate now becomes property of the man. The two of them come together and have a child. Women cannot own offspring, only the man. And this is funny, but a lot of women won't like that. Therefore, the child is property of the executor's estate until he or she reaches legal age. The father is never made aware of this fact. The state coerces the mother into signing the record of live birth as the informant, acting as a trustee. By doing this, she is acting as a trustee of the executor's estate, the father, and giving the child to the state, ultimately abandoning the child. The state runs an ad in the local paper announcing the birth and abandonment of the child. They leave out the abandonment wording. I don't think they actually do this anymore, because it's normalcy bias. It's just no one's going to question it anymore. That was public notice and due process of law. The executor father never shows up to claim his abandoned property, so the state takes ownership. They fulfilled due process by way of public notice in the newspaper. The doctor sends a record of live birth to the state health department and vital statistics. Now the child is an orphan, a word of the state, abandoned by its mother via birth announcement she signed as the informant. The state sends the record of live birth to the registrar's office, where a new estate is created and now placed in probate because they're dead. The state takes the record of live birth and hides it away in the vaults, never to be seen again, now to be used as a security instrument to back the national debt. Borrow money from foreign bankers. The future labor of the child, which is now one stock share in the foreign corporation called the United States. That's kind of my big thing. We had to start understanding that this is a corporation, just like McDonald's Corporation or Boeing or anything else. They don't care about you. They're just doing business. They split the title and create what's known as a certificate of live birth and send that newly created office, the certificate of live birth, to the child in the mail. It's his or her new identity, and when the child reaches legal age, he can now become the occupant of the executor's office of the newly created estate, but is never made aware of this. The state cannot do business with or enter into contracts with a living, breathing human being. This is why they created the certificate of live birth, aka certificate of death, which is the office of the newly created corporate you, the fictitious entity and presumption in law you. They had to turn you into a corporation so they could control you by way of contracts using trust estate and probate law. Note, it says to Act of 1666 made us all dead at birth, cast beyond the sea, lost at sea, dead to the world. And if one day we ever return from the sea and announce that we are alive, we can take over lawful throne as executors of our own estates. That's my whole point here, people, is we need to do this. You need to do this if you want to not be legally owned and considered a ward of the state by this criminal organization. So now the child grows up and remains an incompetent ward of the state because he or she never steps up and assumes that their proper roles as the executor or executrix of their own estate once they reach legal age. The now adult uses this certificate of live birth as their sole source of identity, even though the state advised not to use it as identity. Can you say incompetent? Just as I say not to use the Social Security card as an identity. The now incompetent adult, aka ward of the state, uses a certificate of live birth to get a driver's license, Social Security card, checking account, etc. Now the adult incompetent is masquerading around town using their certificate of live birth as identity to get into other adhesion contracts and basically acting as an agent of the foreign corporation known as the United States, and is now obligated to pay an income tax, an excise tax, a property tax, and ultimately be subject to the state. Now you are obligated to abide by their statutes, rules, and regulations. Note, there is a catch to this last one. They are presuming you're an employee of their corporation, but if you're not receiving a paycheck and there is no employment contract and they cannot provide proof of pay, then what do they have? Do you work for free? Can they compel you to work for free? The estate is an office. You are the occupant of that office, the corporate fiction you, and as the occupant of that office, shouldn't you receive a paycheck for your services? You've lost your inherent rights and have been granted rights and privileges, benefits and privileges instead as a 14th Amendment U.S. citizen. So daddy never showed up to claim his property, and the state took it upon themselves to adopt the child and take it in as their own. The child is now considered a ward of the state, an incompetent bastard child with no father, and the mother abandoned him or her. The certificate of live birth has a state seal and registrar's signature, which is certifiable proof the estate is in or has been in probate. The registrar is the court of probate, and probate deals with the estates of the dead. Hence the legal fiction name on the certificate of live birth, a presumption of law, the other you. To the courts, you are dead, legal fictitious entities, wards of the state, bastard children, orphans, and they do not wish to deal with us directly. That's what the whole Congress and everything about. They're not representing you, they're representing these legal fictions, these orphans, these dead entities in your estate trust. And they steal everything from it. It's such a scam, people. I mean, it's just when you get into this, you go, holy shit, I cannot believe it. But it's easily fixed. Filing a UCC1 financing statement. Anyway, the bar attorney has a superseding oath to the bar, aka the British Accreditation Registry. Their first loyalty is to the court. They are there to lead the sheep into their slaughter. The undertaker is in the black robe. The judge is administering the estate of the incompetent, and his main objective is to make revenue for the state, which is acting as beneficiary of the estate. And you are being put into the trustee position of your own estate. Now you understand why the Lord says, woe unto ye lawyers. Bar attorney's first allegiance is to the Crown Temple in the inner city of London. Look into that. They are there to make you believe someone is fighting for you, but the truth of the matter is they are there to help the presumed administrator of your estate. The bar attorney wearing the black robe is the undertaker. Make as much money as possible for the court, him or himself, and the state. I hope that kind of makes it a little bit easier to understand what we're dealing with here and why the state feels that they can just boss you around and order you around. Because under their fucking guerrilla law here, they can just do it because through these adhesion contracts and birth certificates, they figure they own you and you're an incompetent orphan. And you're children and you need help. They need to show you the way. They need to take care of you. They need to give you vaccines and tell you to put a mask on and shut your business down. It's amazing. Go to stopthepirates.blogspot.com. Thanks.